session I've done since then, so technically I've upheld my promise, but the video is coming a little bit later than I would have liked, but it's here now, and that is the main thing. Before we jump into the facts, I said this in my last video, a quick ramble channel update. I have started a TikTok. I'll link it in the first line of the description. It's just at allsortsasmr. There is no content on there yet, but either next week or the week after, there will be a minimum of 3 videos on there a week, and they'll also get posted as YouTube Shorts. So, if you could give that a follow for me, that would be amazing. But enough of that, let's get into 100 facts about World War II. So, fact number 1. The country with the largest number of World War II casualties was Russia, with over 21 million. For every 5 German soldiers who died in World War II, 4 of them died on the Eastern Front. It is estimated that 1.5 million children died during the Holocaust. Approximately 1.2 million of them were Jewish, and tens of thousands were gypsies. 80% of Soviet males born in 1923 didn't survive World War II. Between 1939 and 1945, the Allies dropped 3.4 million tons of bombs, which averaged to 27,700 tons a month. Russia and the Red Army were accused of several war crimes, including systematic mass sexual assault and genocide. Even after the Allies arrived, many concentration camp prisoners were beyond help. In Bergen-Belsen, for example, 13,000 prisoners died after liberation. Nearly 2,500 of the 33,000 survivors of Dachau died within 6 weeks of liberation. Most historians agree that World War II began when Germany invaded Poland on September 1st, 1939. Others say it started when Japan invaded Manchuria on September 18th, 1931. And some scholars suggest World War II is actually just a continuation of World War I, with a small break in between. Max Heiliger was the fictitious name of the SS used to establish a bank account in which they deposited money, gold and jewels taken from European Jews. The longest battle of World War II was the Battle of the Atlantic, which lasted from 1939 to 1945. My autofocus is being really annoying at the minute. I'm going to try and not move too close to the camera. The original abbreviation of the National Socialist Party was NASOS. The word Nazi derives from a Bavarian word that means simple-minded and was first used as a term of derision by journalist Conrad Hayden. Approximately 600,000 Jews served in the US Armed Forces during World War II. More than 35,000 were killed, wounded, captured or missing. Approximately 8,000 died in combat. However, only 2 Jewish soldiers were awarded the Medal of Honor in World War II. The Battle of the Bulge, great name, is the largest and deadliest battle for US troops to date, with more than 80,000 US casualties. Quite a lot of these facts are pretty US-centric. I would hazard a guess it's an American website. troops during the siege of Leningrad than did American and British soldiers combined in all of World War II. That's mental. The Nazis murdered approximately 12 million people, nearly 6 million of those being Jews killed in the Holocaust. During World War II, the Japanese launched 9,000 windship weapons of paper and rubberized silk balloons that carried incendiary and anti-personnel bombs to the US. More than 1,000 balloons hit their target, and they reached as far east as Michigan. The swastika is an ancient religious symbol. It derives from the Sanskrit name for a hooked cross, which was used by ancient civilizations as a symbol of fertility and good fortune. It has been found in the ruins of Greece, Egypt, China, India, and Hindu temples. The Japanese kamikaze tactic was suggested on October 9th, 1944 by Vice Admiral Onishi in an attempt to balance the technological advantage of invading American forces. In 1935, British engineer Robert Watson Watts was working on a death ray that would destroy enemy aircraft using radio waves. His death ray instead evolved into radar or radio detection and ranging. And fact number 20, many Jews were subject to gruesome medical experiments. For example, doctors would bombard the private parts of men and women with X-rays to see the impact of different doses on sterility. I saw a really mean, sorry to pause this, I saw like such a mean comment on like a video. It was like, oh, this guy needs to do his research and learn how to pronounce big words. I was like, I think I speak quite well, but I'm sorry. Nazi doctors would break bones repeatedly to see how many times it could be done before a bone could not heal, and then a whole other host of horrible things are listed here. I don't fancy going into the details, to be honest. Moving on, Dr. Joseph Mengele, known as the Angel of Death, I probably am butchering this name, so I apologise, used about 3,000 twins, mostly Romani and Jewish children, for his painful genetic experiments. Only 200 survived. In addition to Jews and Gypsies, Jehovah's Witnesses were also persecuted and murdered in German concentration camps. The decision to implement the final solution, or Die Endlösung, was made at the 1C conference in Berlin on January 20th, 1942. Many historians believe that the battle at Stalingrad is not only arguably the bloodiest battle in history, with 800,000 to 1.6 million casualties, but also the turning point of World War II in Europe. World War II ended on September 2nd, 1945, when Japan signed a surrender agreement on the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay. Anne Frank and her sister died at Bergen-Belsen in March 1945, 1 month before the camp was liberated in April 1945. In his book The Abandonment of the Jews, David Wyman argued that the failure to bomb concentration camps was a result of the Allies' indifference to the fate of the Jews, rather than the practical impossibility of the operation. Despite the risks, thousands of people helped save the Jews. For example, the country of Denmark saved its entire community, and individuals such as Raoul Wallenberg, Oskar Schindler, and Shion Sugihara saved thousands of lives. From 1940 to 45, the US defense budget increased from $1.9 billion to $59.8 billion. The Air Force was part of the Army in World War II and didn't become a separate branch of the military until after the war. In 1941, a private earned $21 a month. In 1942, a private earned $50 a month. German U-boats sunk 2,000 Allied ships at a cost of 781 U-boats destroyed. More than 650,000 Jeeps were built during World War II. American factories also produced 300,000 military aircraft, 89,000 tanks, 3 million machine guns, and 7 million rifles. The Enola Gay became well known for dropping the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima, but few people know the name of the B-29 that bombed Nagasaki. It was Bockscar, named after the plane's usual commander, Frederick Bock. The Germans used the first jet fighters in World War II, among them the Messerschmitt Me-262. The most powerful artillery gun created by any nation and used in World War II was named Karl by its designer General Karl Becker. Used mostly against the Russians, the huge gun could shoot a 2.5-ton shell over 3 miles. The shells were 24 inches wide and could go through 8 to 9 feet of concrete. During World War II, the acronym BAM stood for Broad-Assed Marines, or Women Soldiers in the US Marine Corps. That's the women, however, called the men HAMS for Hairy-Assed Marines. Okay, fair enough. The SS ran a brothel called the Kitty Salon for foreign diplomats and other VIPs in Berlin. It was wiretapped, and 20 prostitutes underwent several weeks of intense indoctrination and training. They were specifically trained to glean information from clients through seemingly innocuous conversations. World War II resulted in the downfall of Europe as a centre of world power and led to the rise of the US and Russia as superpowers. And fact number 40. During World War II, hamburgers in the US were dubbed Liberty Steaks to avoid the German-sounding name. At the time of the Pearl Harbor attack, there were 96 ships anchored. During the attack, 18 were sunk or seriously damaged, including 8 battleships. Joseph Kramer, a commander of Bergen-Belsen, was known as the Beast of Belsen. When asked if he felt anything, as he watched and participated in the deaths of thousands of men, women and children, Kramer said he didn't feel anything because he was following orders. The ace of all fighter aces of all nations is German fighter pilot Erich Hartmann, known as the Blonde Knight, with 352 kills. Members of Adolf Hitler's inner circle allegedly called Rudolf Hess Fraulein Anna because he was reportedly a homosexual. He was also known as the Brown Mouse. William Hitler, a nephew of Adolf Hitler, was in the US Navy during World War II. He changed his name after the war, as you would obviously. Italian fascists took as their symbol the fasces, a bundle of bound rods that symbolise the power of ancient Rome. The Nazis killed millions of Poles, but they thought that some Polish babies and children looked German German and kidnapped about 50,000 of them to be adopted by German parents to become Germanized. The Nazis pirated the Harvard fight song to compose their Sieg Heil March. Special units run by the SS called Einsatzgruppen followed the German army's invasion of countries. They would force Jews to dig a pit and then shoot them so they would fall into an open grave. It is estimated that the Einsatzgruppen killed 1.4 million Jews. And fact number 50, so at the halfway point. Prisoners called Sonderkommando were forced to bury corpses or burn them in ovens. Fewer than 20 of the thousands of Sonderkommando survived, though buried and hidden accounts of some were found later at camps. Several famous actors were decorated during World War II. For example, Henry Fonda won a Bronze Star in the Pacific. John Wayne starred in 14 World War II movies. However, due to a football injury, he never actually served in the war. Oh, there goes my stomach. Lovely ASMR trigger there. Hitler kept a framed photo of Henry Ford, founder of the Ford Motor Company, on his desk. Henry Ford also kept a framed photo of the Nazi leader on his desk in Dearborn, Michigan. In Mein Kampf, Hitler attributed some of his anti-Semitic views to Ford. Wow, did not know that. On January 31st, 1945, Private Eddie Slovic was shot for desertion, the first American executed for the crime since the Civil War, and the only one to suffer this punishment during World War II. Although Japan fought on the side of Britain, France and the US during World War I, it felt cheated by its failure to gain much territory when the peace treaty was composed. Additionally, in the 1920s, its government came under control of fanatical nationalists and allied with the army, which eventually prompted Japan to side with Germany. After its defeat in World War I, Germany was forced to sign the Treaty of Versailles in 1919. Germany lost all its overseas empires as well as land to its neighbours, and it was prevented from maintaining a large army. Most Germans opposed the treaty, and their resentment would eventually undo the settlement, leading to World War II. Out of the 40,000 men who served on U-boats during World War II, only 10,000 returned. The most decorated unit ever in US history is the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, whose motto was "Go for Broke." It consisted of Japanese American volunteers. Together they won 4,667 major medals, awards and citations. Norvell Gillespie, the garden editor of Better Homes and Gardens, designed the camouflage print for US service uniforms in World War II. And fact number 60. The greatest tank battle in history occurred between the Germans and Russians at the Kursk salient in Russia from July 4th to the 22nd, 1943. More than 3,600 tanks were involved. The largest Japanese spy ring during World War II was not in the US but in Mexico, where it spied on the US Atlantic Fleet. Prisoners of war in Russian camps experienced an 85% mortality rate. The vast majority of German war criminals passed themselves off as refugees at displaced persons camps when the war ended, thereby gaining freedom. Germany had a total of 3,363 generals during the war, while the US had just over 1,500. Before Nazi Germany decided to eliminate the Jews by gassing them, it had considered sending them to the island of Madagascar. If it became necessary to drop a third atom bomb on Japan, the city that would have been the target was Tokyo. The now iconic "We Can Do It" poster was initially not intended for public display, and only a small number of people saw it when it was first published in 1942. The greatest loss of life ever sustained by the US Navy occurred on the 30th of July 1945. The USS Indianapolis was shot by Japanese submarine I-58. Captain Charles McVeigh, commanding officer of the cruiser, was the only US Navy officer ever to be court-martialed for losing a ship in war. Calvin Graham was only 12 years old when he enlisted in the US Navy. He won a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart before the Navy found out how old he was. And fact number 70. Fact number 70 is Rudolf Hess. Adolf Hitler's deputy in the Nazi Party was the last person to have been incarcerated in the Tower of London. While in prison, Hitler envisioned the development of a people's car, or a Volkswagen, from the word Volk, meaning people or nation. On December 8th, 1941, Britain and the US declared war on Japan. On December 11th, Germany declared war on the US. The US is the only nation Germany formally declared war on. The Nazis called their rule the Third Reich. The First Reich was the Holy Roman Empire, and the Second Reich was the German Empire of 1871 to 1918. At the behest of the Nazi regime, what a good word, behest, book-burning campaigns took place in Berlin and other German cities between March and June 1933, with senior academics and university students incinerating books deemed to contain un-German ideas. In a bizarre move, Hitler's deputy and confidant Rudolf Hess parachuted into Scotland on May 10th, 1941 to negotiate a peace agreement. The British concluded he was mentally unstable. World War II was the most destructive conflict in history. It cost more money, damaged more property, killed more people, and caused more far-reaching changes than any other war in history. I'd say, maybe in terms of numeric and sheer size, that may be true, but I think relatively speaking, you can't really say that, because there are probably some smaller scale wars, like in Asia, for example, that have had far-reaching effects within that region. It's kind of hard to quantify that effect, if you get what I'm trying to say. On July 14th, 1941, the Soviets introduced a new weapon, I'm going to butcher this as well, the Katyusha, which could fire 320 rockets in 25 seconds. After the sneak attack at Pearl Harbor, President Roosevelt searched for a bulletproof car. The British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain's policy of appeasement toward Hitler is generally thought to have been a mistake, but his defenders claimed that it bought Britain time to prepare for war. And fact number 80. In the 1928 elections, less than 3% of Germans voted for the Nazi Party. In 1938, Hitler was Time magazine's Man of the Year. The Nazi salute was modelled on the salute of fascists, the ancient Romans as well as ancient Germans. The raised arm resembles a raised spear. The Great Depression had a ripple effect throughout the world. It prevented Germany from paying World War I reparations, which forced Great Britain and France to default on their debts to the US, which in turn sowed discontent throughout the globe. Hitler designed the Nazi flag. Red stood for the social idea of Nazism, white for nationalism, and the black swastika for the struggle of the Aryan man. Large inflatable barrage balloons were used to protect major towns and cities in Britain from air raids. The main success of the Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War, was due to tank units supported from the air by dive bombers, such as the Junkers Ju-87. These Stukas were fitted with sirens, which sounded like screaming to terrify the population. Because the Norway leader Vidkun Quisling actively collaborated with Germany after its occupation, his name has entered the Norwegian language as a word for traitor. Throughout occupied Europe, many people actively collaborated with the Germans. As their countries were liberated, some locals took revenge against the collaborators by beating or shooting them or shaving the female traitors' heads. In 1974, a Japanese soldier named Hiru Onoda came out of the jungle of the Pacific island of Lubang. He had been hiding there for 29 years, unaware that his country had surrendered. Oh, that's just really sad. Japan and Russia never formally ended hostilities after World War II. Plans for them to sign an official peace treaty in 2000 failed because Japan wanted Russia to return 4 offshore islands it had taken after the war. Author Ian Fleming based his character 007 on the Yugoslavian-born spy Duško Popov. Popov spoke at least 5 languages and came up with his own formula for invisible ink. He was the first spy to use microdots, or photos shrunk down to the size of dots. There you go. Into the final 10 facts about World War II now. Beginning with, from 1942, US Marines in the Pacific used the Navajo language as their secret code. The Russians were the first with paratroopers, which they exhibited in 1935. The Allies did not catch up until 1940, when the Central Landing School opened near Manchester. The most important medical advance that saved soldiers' lives during World War II was the blood transfusion. In 1939, the Nazis began a euthanasia program in which 80,000 to 100,000 Germans who were disabled, mentally retarded, or insane were murdered. The Auschwitz concentration camp complex was the only place where prisoners were given identification number tattoos. The practice began in 1941 when Russian prisoners of war were stamped on the upper left breast. Jews started receiving tattoos in 1942. Survivors of both atomic bombings in Japan are called Niju Hibakusha, which literally means explosion-affected people. Poison gas was first used in World War I to break the trench warfare stalemate. Though all powers had chemical weapons, only Japan and Italy used them during World War II. Formed as a personal action service for Hitler. SS is an abbreviation of Schutzstaffel, virtually a state within a state. The SS was headed by Heinrich Luitpold Himmler, Heinrich Himmler obviously, and carried out massive executions of political opponents and ethnic minorities. World War II casualties totaled between 50 and 70 million people. More than 80% of this total came from 4 countries: Russia, China, Germany, and Poland. More than half of these casualties were civilians, most of whom were women and children. And fact number 100, number 100, number 100, fact number 100. We've done it, guys. Well done, you've made it. The oleander is the official flower of the city of Hiroshima because it was the first to bloom again after the explosion of the atomic bomb in 1945. And that, my friends, was 100 facts about World War II. A lot of them were very sombre, but maybe for an ASMR video, but it's war. It's not a joyous, funny topic. So I think for the next facts video that I do, I can't remember what I got planned. I think I might do a part 2 to the 50 facts about 50 different countries, because I got a lot of comments of people saying like, oh, my country wasn't in it, this country wasn't in it, so I'm going to try and make like an effort to have those countries definitely in the video. And then I saw someone request do facts about Spider-Man, so I might do 100 facts about Marvel Spider-Man. But I do want to do more war ones. Let me know your suggestions for fact videos you'd like to see. 100 fact videos or 1 hour ones. I've got quite a lot written down on the sheet that I still need to get through. Realistically, I've probably got fact content that could last me the next year, maybe even 2 years, but please do give me your suggestions. It might be the Vietnam War, Cold War, or it might be something completely different to that, like manga. I know nothing about manga, but maybe it would be, or anime. It might be fun to learn together, but yeah, let me know your suggestions down below, and just a little reminder again to follow that TikTok in the description. But everybody, that is going to do it for this video. I really hope you did